This episode is sponsored by Jacobson Real Estate Company. Are you ready to find your dream home? Or maybe you're thinking about selling and want the best deal possible? Well, look no further. At Jacobson Real Estate Company, we make buying or selling your home smooth, stress-free, and exciting. With 50-plus years of experience and a deep knowledge of the Winona, Minnesota area market, we specialize in turning your real estate goals into reality. Whether it's finding that perfect neighborhood, negotiating top dollar for your property, or answering all of your questions along the way, we're here for you. Plus, with our personalized approach, you're not just a client, you're family. So why wait? Let Jacobson Real Estate Company open the door to your future. Call us today at 507-313-2716 or visit our website at jacobsonrealestatecompany.com. Because your next chapter starts here. Buy, sell, invest. Jacobson Real Estate Company. Welcome to this week's edition of Brews Cruise. I am your host, Chris Jacobson, and today's episode is the first one of the year of 2026, and this one goes a little deeper than most. We're going to be talking about addiction and what it really looks like, the mental and spiritual battles behind it, and the consequences that force change. We break down treatment court, why it works, and what recovery actually takes day to day. And we don't skip the hard parts either. Life after addiction, second chances, and being seen for who you are and not for who you were. So today on the podcast, I have Brandon Emmons and I have Max Ruff joining me, talking about a very deep and serious conversation. But I actually know you guys from a long time ago, not real well, but now I've known you guys a little bit better as life has gone on. I used to actually play baseball with both of your brothers, Justin and Aaron. So I actually played baseball when I was younger with them. And then I knew you in high school. Max, I didn't know you probably as well, but I've gotten to know you a lot from the gym lately. So guys, I want to welcome you to the first podcast of 2026.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And actually, a funny story, Max, your brother one time, he played on our baseball team, and my dad coached both of your brothers as well. Your brother Justin came to a game one time, just dirty as couldn't be. And my dad's like, what happened? The game hadn't even started yet. And he goes, I got into a fight before the game on my way here. He remembers that story so well because he goes, what happened? We're like, we haven't even played the game yet, and he's already dirty. So it was hilarious. But fun times. But it's good to have you guys on here and opening up and sharing your life story about addiction. And Brandon, you just recently went through, what is it called when the drug treatment court? Like is it a graduation or what is that?
Yeah. I just graduated from the treatment court program a couple weeks ago.
Okay. So as you guys can probably imagine, we're having waters and things that are non-alcoholic, which makes a lot of sense. But I would like each of you to give us just a short background on who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into everything else. So, right. Brandon, if you want to go first.
Yeah. Again, my name is Brandon Emmons. I am from Winona originally. Lived here off and on. Spent a lot of my life in Rochester and Minneapolis as well. A little bit of time in St. Cloud. Life's just kind of been a roller coaster, as it kind of happens with addiction.
Yep. Okay. And Max?
Same. I grew up here in Winona, Max Ruff, and cousins with Brandon. I ran the town till I was 29. I didn't really leave. I stayed here and wreaked havoc.
So you guys are cousins. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. So that's cool to know that you guys are cousins and obviously you're supporting each other in this thing. So it's kind of nice to know that family is there to help out when necessary as well. So I guess, and Max, if you want to just bring your mic just a little bit closer, that'd be perfect.
Closer. There we go.
So the first thing I want to get into is, this isn't something that just happens overnight. Addiction to whatever it might be. Is there something specific that you guys were addicted to? Was it alcohol, drugs, all the above? Because there's obviously many different things that people are addicted to. There's gambling, pornography, many different things. Food can be another one too. And some of those don't even feel like addictions, but sometimes if it's drugs, alcohol, it does wreak physical havoc on bodies and also life choices. So is there a specific thing that you guys were addicted to?
For me, I will say that it was just chaos. I never really had a drug of choice. It was just more of whatever was going to numb and create calamity in life.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I would say mine was definitely trying to fit into a certain image, and with that came a lot of alcohol, cocaine, money, stupid decisions. I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but a lot of that is whatever the substance or choice is. I mean, it changed for me. It was whatever made me feel what I needed to feel at that point.
Sure. So did it start from like something not as major to something that got progressively worse and worse? Sometimes they call, now that marijuana is now legal, but they still always call it a gateway drug. Did it start small and then it just kind of worked its way up?
So I've put a lot of thought into this, actually, and it's no secret that I was a horrible thief in my addiction. So my earliest negative behavior was stealing.
Okay.
And then it just went swan diving from there.
Sure. And what were you stealing? Was it something?
I would steal from people, convenience stores, whatever I wanted, just to get the thrill of the steal.
No kidding.
So thrill-seeking type of negative behaviors.
The riskiness, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So that's where it started for me, was just the negative behavior. It wasn't the drugs. It was the negativity.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for me, it really wasn't doing the drugs either. It was fighting and selling drugs. Selling weed from a young age, trying to fit in, trying to prove myself fighting, which, now looking back on it all, it's definitely something that I regret, but yeah, that's just trying to fit into that mold.
Sure. And that you bring up a good thing, Brandon, is it's kids nowadays, obviously, there's social media out there. When we were around, social media really wasn't much of a thing. It kind of came around, but you try to fit into an image, especially in high school. That's like one of those times of your life. You're like, oh my gosh. And I remember going to high school, coming from a Lutheran school, private school, coming to the public school, and I'm like, man, I gotta fit in. I don't want to look like the dork, or I don't want to look like this. I just want to fit in so people think I'm cool. And so I can understand where that would come from. So that was part of the issue you were having, was kind of identity, it sounds like, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, identity was a huge thing for all of my life, really.
Sure. And I actually remember fighting. You said fighting was one thing, and I remember that was a stereotype that was about you when we were younger. People were scared of you. You were a bigger guy for your age. And so I remember people being intimidated. And I think the same thing was probably, I don't know if you fought at all, Max, but
a little bit.
Just a little
bit here and there.
And so I remember that as a high schooler, and a grade schooler, that I had heard who you were, and then I got to know who you were. But actually, I got to know you one time at a party, and I'm like, he's not really like that at all. And this was like when we were in 10th grade, and we were at the Schneider's house one time. And people wanted you and me to box each other, and I'm like, what the hell? I think you guys are 2 years older than me, so I think I was like,
I'm one, okay,
1 year older. 1 year older, and
it's
you're
a switch.
2 then.
It's a switch that flips.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It's like when the level of offense and your pride reach the same level, boom, you're fighting.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really a silly balancing act, and when you, I guess I'll bring in the fatherless home. I didn't have a positive role model, so fighting brought that kind of tough guy mentality where you didn't need that male role model. You were the tough guy.
Sure.
Trying to grow up way faster than kids should.
Okay.
Definitely. So that must, I just had a daughter, so I've always heard that positive male role model plays a huge part, no matter if it's a boy or girl, and you can sometimes tell when they don't have that father figure in their life, they will go seek it out other ways, and you were just telling us kind of how it worked out for you as well.
Yeah.
So do you remember the first time that substance abuse became an issue, or when it was first in your life at all?
I started smoking marijuana when I was probably 12. Weirdly, I didn't start smoking cigarettes till I was like 15 because it smelled bad. But alcohol was right around the same time, and then like pill stimulant form stuff.
Pills
that you
too.
could take. You could get pills from Freedom in middle school.
Which one were they?
Like you could get pyrifedrin from the Freedom gas station.
Oh, jeez.
They were like called Yellow Jackets or something.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Yeah. And it was not good. I mean, kids would just go to Freedom from class and steal and come back to school just geeking.
Jeez.
And that's the kind of environment we chose because there was definitely other paths to take.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'll say that too.
And then, so Brandon, for you, do you remember what your first initiation or with it was?
I think for me, drinking was, something that I did right from the start too. It was just same age as him too.
So about 12 years old, huh?
Same thing with smoking weed. I actually didn't smoke a cigarette until I was 18. The only thing I've ever waited till the legal age to do. No, but I think things definitely switched for me when I started mixing cocaine with my drinking. Because once I did my first line of cocaine, I was pretty much game to try anything else.
I mean,
we were very young when we started doing cocaine.
I was like 15 when I first did cocaine.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy. Okay, so I wouldn't have thought that. I didn't know that. And I knew you, so I wouldn't have known that. And 15, when you're talking 15, for those who are listening, you're talking freshman, sophomore in high school area. That's pretty young.
When kids are supposed to be worrying about their grades and their freaking baseball team and stuff, we were doing different stuff.
So how do you, that's it's still a pretty hard drug, I would say. How do you find that as a youngster? Like, how can you just come across cocaine?
For me, I always hung out with people that were older than me.
Okay.
I really didn't have, like, I had some people in my age that I hung out with for quite a few years. Still have a few of those guys as friends. But otherwise, I was always seeking a role model, basically. So I'd hang out with a lot of older guys that were 5-10 years older than me and, started doing coke with them.
And that makes sense. 5-10 years older than, a 15-year-old. You're talking 20, 25-year-olds that are out there that are somewhat established in the world or going to college at the moment, possibly. So I can understand that, too. So that really brings up a good point. It sounds like, just from listening to this real briefly, you're seeking out for some sort of adult figure in your life of a male sort. So that really pushes home for those who have kids out there to make sure, as a father, males, to obviously take control and make sure your daughter, sons, and your family is taken care of, so this possibly does not happen to them as well. Now, it's funny, you say I find the one thing you waited to do was a cigarette when you were of 18. Isn't it 21 now?
I believe so.
What was crazy to me, I remember in high school that we had the smoking tree outside. It was just off of campus where everyone would go on a break and they would have their cigarette just outside so they couldn't yell at you or suspend you or whatever it was. So that's actually pretty crazy. And now it's actually 21 years old. So that's actually going probably in the right direction too, because whenever I taught health, I believe it says that your brain isn't fully developed until you're about 25. Yep. And so to be able to have cigarettes at 18, it's tough, but also I remember when my parents were younger, you could get alcohol at 18 years old as well, but then you can also go off and fight a war at 18. So there's that whole debate on that as well. So as this is all happening, do you start to see a downward spiral, or does everything just kind of seem like, oh, this is normal, this is day to day for me?
For me, I never really took any of it serious. I got a ton of minor consumptions. I got 5th-degree assaults. I got expelled from school for fighting off school grounds, protecting a friend of mine. But none of that really fazed me. I still graduated on time. I would just hit these little milestones where it didn't matter what I was doing, as long as I was getting my other things in life.
You weren't that bad.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
So it didn't seem like anything
I was a
bad.
Functional.
Okay,
addict,
there you go. Yep.
I was very non-functioning. I had legal ramifications, and I ran away all the time. I was always getting sent away when I was a kid. And, so I wasn't really scared of spending any time away from home because home sucked.
Sure.
A lot of the time.
Yeah.
So going away wasn't really a big thing. You're like, cool, send me away. Home life isn't great?
It was like a little badge of honor, some sort. So
Okay.
You were at Von Wall too, right?
Von Wall.
Von
Many
Wall. The
Rivers.
first time I went there, I do remember like I'd almost rather stay here. You know, like
It was a nice little center.
yeah.
Where is that located at?
It's
in
in Rochester, yeah. And
Okay.
It was kind of it was more like a group home setting than anything else, but like they had some really good staff there, and as long as you wanted to follow their procedures, it was like a home setting.
Yeah.
But like
It was a nice option.
it was good.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a nice option. Many Rivers was
Nah.
lockdown.
I've
Just
heard
like
of
a
that.
jail.
I heard of that place.
It's just like a jail.
Now,
100%.
there's the one in Red Wing too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Is
Red
that
Wing.
like the Many Rivers one, or?
It's very similar. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like almost like a jail.
It's like a jail.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but where you went was more like a home setting.
That was just one of the places. Many Rivers also is just like a jail, or more like a prison setting.
Sure, but the other one that you were talking about was it Von?
Von Wald, yeah,
That
that
one
was group home setting.
Okay.
More than anything.
Austin Boys Ranch, mowing lawns, all kind of crazy stuff.
So then, when you go there, are you intimidated when you got there? You're like, this isn't so bad.
I was intimidated because there's other bad kids there.
Sure.
So you know you're going to be getting in fights.
Okay.
And some fights you don't win. So
How do they control that?
staff?
Yeah, how the staff control
Oh.
that?
It's kind of tough, because they can't beat the kids.
Right,
Try
can't
and
beat-
separate them. And, now I have no idea how they interact with that, the way the rules and regulations are.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So when addiction comes in, it doesn't just come like that overnight. It's a overtime situation because, as you guys were just alluding to, or you did, you said, I was graduating on time, homework was done, I was just doing this on the side. Max, for you, it was slightly different. You kind of said, hey, I get sent away, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Did you realize at that point that it was an issue, or you're just like, nah?
It wasn't an issue for me, to be fair, because I idolized the bad guy.
Oh,
On
gotcha.
the
Okay.
motorcycle with the fast money and the fast lady and
Yeah.
no responsibility,
Sure.
That was the idol that I had in mind for my life for a long time.
Well, growing up, we watched movies that were like that. I mean, you can even go with, I know you guys aren't probably wrestling fans, but WWE at the time was the Attitude Era, and the anti-good guy was the good guy. The anti-hero was your good guy. Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was cool, chugging beers, flicking off his boss, kicking people, and
was
beating them up.
cool.
It was fun. So the anti-hero, I think at that late 90s, early 2000s was cool. And then you get into, and I'm assuming you probably listen to rap in your days, as do I, and obviously they have a lot of negative stereotypes that are in music videos and within the lyrics too, but obviously the anti-hero was the cool person at that time, so I understand where you're coming from as well, Max. So can you see, and you talked about how you were functioning, but can you see can you see when someone's addicted? Can you visually see that at first, or is it something that takes some time? Because I know if you wait long enough, eventually it catches up physically, mentally with some people.
Yeah.
I've seen it in Winona here just alone. Is it something you can see right away, or is it something that takes a little bit of time?
I mean, with the drugs that kids have available today,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty apparent when they get on them because you can't function.
Yeah.
But drugs, when we were kids, it was different. And if you got a second shift working household and your parents aren't there to see you decline so much, then I guess it's not so apparent.
Sure.
Because you're not visible to them. But, yeah, drugs take a bad toll on you. And your attitude changes and your mannerisms change. So if you're paying attention, you'll notice.
What are some of the ones that kids have available nowadays compared to when we were younger? So, I'm 38. You guys are right around 40 years old, 39 years old. And so just to give people an idea of what we're talking about, we're talking early 2000s. What are some things that are now available for kids that maybe weren't when we were younger?
Everything we had, plus all this weird fentanyl and carfentanol and trank and all these other weird Chinese drugs that get shipped over. And
Sure, okay.
And on top of it, the fentanyl getting put into other drugs that you don't know that you're even doing. A lot of people that I know have personally, they go out to the bar, they get a bag thinking it's cocaine, and they have fentanyl in it.
So
it's
what
pretty
is
common.
fentanyl then? I guess I don't know much about it. I've heard it on the news quite a bit. You know, they're bombing boats that are coming across with fentanyl. And I don't know if that's true or not, but what is fentanyl? I mean, I'm sure
It's
you
a
guys...
painkiller.
Oh, it's a painkiller.
It's
Okay.
an opioid-type painkiller, for my understanding.
Yeah.
And
Stronger than morphine.
It's much stronger.
Now, I've had morphine once when I broke my face, and I remember how I felt during that time. I got a shot in my butt, and it felt good when I went to work that night because my face was broken, and I felt a little loopy, but I had no pain.
Yep.
So is that what fentanyl is basically like,
I mean,
except
that's
for better?
It comes with the good feeling, but it also at the same time is gripping your spirit.
Yep.
How so? Can you explain that?
It's a weird correlation, but when that drug is making you feel this type of way that you don't want to feel the pain, you're like thankful to not be in pain, and it's like opening your spirit to that drug to just grab you and hold on for dear life.
Holy cow. Okay, well that's...
Yeah, so good thing you didn't get hooked on morphine.
No, it's a good thing. I only had it one time, and that was just because I was in so much pain because they couldn't operate surgery on my face right away when it was broken. So I had to just go with that, and it got me through the pain for the night.
Yeah.
So I would have had to go back to the doctor, and they would have probably said, no, you're not getting another shot of that. You don't need it. So now when it comes to, and you just spoke on this, you kind of talked about the spiritual side of addiction. I assume mental and emotional is part of that whole, it kind of all intertwines with each other, right? Mm-hmm. So is there any mental health challenges that happen before addiction?
So something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, because there's all different ways that people recover. Some people recover with AA, NA. Some people recover in the church. Some people just, white knuckle it and just never go back to it again. Some people use therapy. There's tons of different ways. And one thing that I like, the difference between a functioning or like a casual user and an addict is their relationship with themselves and their relationship with their higher power. For us, it's God. But if you want to look deeper into it, it's just your relationship with yourself is your relationship with God because you are His creation.
Yep.
So like, no matter what, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you're going to end up leading to, if it's not drugs or alcohol, pornography, womanizing, stealing, suicidal tendencies, cutting, things like that. You're going to go to one of them. So that relationship with yourself and the depression that you see in people eventually will turn into something.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a big one. If you don't respect yourself, it sounds like, from what I'm understanding, if you don't respect yourself, it's easy to go down this path without even really kind of having any idea about it. And I think alcohol,
or even learning how to like love yourself, that's a huge thing.
Sure.
I never loved myself ever until recently. It took a lot of deep work to get there, but like that's how I came to look at it this way, because once I got that relationship with myself and with God, like I was all weight's gone,
Sure.
It was complete freedom. Yeah.
Made new.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. I live Psalm 40 every day.
And what is that one?
Psalm 40 is, He pulled me out of the muck and mire, set me on a firm foundation, put a new song in my heart, a song of praise and worship. And that's like, for me, I had so many problems, and now I have one solution. And that's the key for me.
Gotcha. That's awesome. We're going to come back to that too at the end here, your spiritual journey as well. So for you two personally, it sounds like any sort of drug was kind of a coping mechanism with something, and it sounded like, was it possibly because of the father figure in your life, or was there other things you were coping with mentally? I know you said you didn't feel high on yourself, Brandon.
Yep.
For you, Max, was it something that made you cope with something?
So shame is a really, really effective tool of the devil.
Okay.
It is a really effective tool to keep a person stuck.
Sure.
And drugs bring a lot of shame or addiction.
Okay.
The levels of depravity and degradation you reach that you're like, oh, I'm way up here. I don't do stuff like that person. Then next year you do. And then next year you do. And then 6 months you're shooting up,
Gotcha.
So like pretty soon the levels of depravity are there. And yeah.
What are some shame things that you felt?
Oh, gosh. It's not a secret. I have a really horrible instance in my life I have to live with. My dog died in my hot car.
Oh, okay.
And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. I can never personally forgive myself for putting that dog in that situation. Now, I'm not going to get into the explanation of what happened because it doesn't really matter. But I pray often. I rescue dogs. I do everything I can. I might cry.
That's okay.
But I do everything I can to right that wrong in hopes that I'm forgiven.
Sure. Well, and actually, it's funny that you say that you help dogs at the Humane Society, if I remember right, because actually we just gained one of those dogs from the Humane Society through my aunt who just recently passed away. And I remember we talked in the sauna the other day. You said, "Oh, I remember him. His name was Enzo because you used to walk him, I think."
Yeah,
and that was
I did as well.
Yeah. You did as well. Okay. So now my aunt, she adopted him, and that was last November. And then she just recently passed away unexpectedly this past November. And he was there. She was single, so all he had was her. And I said, "Well, he ain't going back to the shelter. I can tell you that much right now. We'll figure out something." So my parents kind of took him in, and now my wife and I, we help out with him as well. So you guys know Enzo, and so you are, Max, you are helping out, even though you had one experience that was negative in your life. You're trying to make your wrong right by helping out more and more and more, and that's awesome to hear.
I literally rescued 2 pit bulls this morning and had to turn them into animal control.
Were they just abandoned on the side of the road?
No, they were running down Huff and Broadway. One was walking with a lady. It wasn't hers. The other one was chasing a lady running. Yeah, so they just come to me, and I feel like it's just my duty.
Sure.
Especially after my horrible decision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally understandable. But that's awesome that you're trying to make your rights or your wrongs right again, and that's awesome.
His name was Razor, and he was a wonderful dog.
Right. Okay. And so, Brandon, you do the same thing then? You help out?
Yep. Part of the treatment court program is doing community hours.
Okay.
So I got in contact with him and had him try to help me out getting in there because that's something that I've always loved dogs, and that's something that I will always continue to do, when I have the time.
Sure.
Just because it brings me happiness. Over Thanksgiving, I knew that they'd be short on people to help out, and I didn't have anything going on, so I spent 3 of the 4 hours they needed people down there with the dogs, and it helped me get through what's normally a pretty harder day. You know?
Well, they always say that, if you have a dog in your life, and it could go for any animal, I'm just a dog lover, they always say that it really brings down your stress. Like when you come home and there's a dog there, it's just, obviously you're all happy to see the dog, and they just bring your stress levels down, and it's just supposed to help out a lot. So does that help out for you guys too, the same way? I
mean, at the end of the day, dogs show you unconditional love no matter what you do to that dog. It will always want your love and want to give you the love. So that is something that helps because, again, that was something I'd always lacked was loving myself and being loved, accepting love. So animals definitely play a huge part in my happiness and joy in my everyday life.
Sure. So, go on, Max. Nothing?
Go ahead. Yep.
Well, I'm going to move on to the next subject then.
On to it.
All right. So now you're going down this path, and you obviously don't know you're going down this path, but do you remember the point of your life when you were hit rock bottom, as they say? Do you remember that time you're like, I need to do something? This is out of control. Multiple times.
Like he was saying, you create a new bottom, and eventually the bottom is death. That's because a lot of people still end up making that trade at the end of it. I went to prison for a bar fight back when I was 25 years old. I would have thought that would have been, I always told myself I would never go to prison, blah, blah, blah. And then, I hit a guy one time and I ended up in prison. And that did change me. I've never been in a fight after that. I completely stopped that part of it. It was a scary experience. The guy almost lost his life because of a bar fight. I didn't even know him. So that did turn me a little bit, but then, after some years go by, I'm off parole, start, drinking more, cocaine comes back in, it was a slow slip back into old habits. And then before all of this, I moved back to Winona and started partying a lot and needed to support my habits, so I got involved in selling cocaine and decided I want to do that full time and party full time and just do what I wanted to do because I was divorced. I didn't want to answer to anybody again, just that same feeling but before. I don't want to answer to you, no matter what it is. I did it my way. Ended up getting raided back in February of 23. Ended up spending a month in jail before I bailed out. And then I decided I didn't want to own up to any of it. So I took off, spent some time out of the state, came back and hid out in an apartment for about 6 months. I think I left twice in the beginning, but the last 4 I was there. The darkest days of my life. A lot of time alone, a lot of cocaine, a lot of alcohol. I had an overdose on purpose. Actually, today of that year, I tried to sniff almost 7 full grams, and I woke up like a day later, bit off part of my tongue from a seizure, had a bunch of blood underneath me, and I got up and I did another line. And 2 weeks later, had another overdose, and then he reached out to me. We hadn't talked in some years, and he's like, you just be a man and go deal with what you have to deal with. I lost it on him. I didn't want to hear it. And then a week later, bounty hunters came and rushed into the apartment, took me to jail. But at that point, I was in a bunch of pain. Like, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't lift, or I couldn't put any pressure on my left leg. I was coughing up blood all day, every day. I couldn't lift anything. Like, I had to have people pour vodka into a solo cup so I could lift that.
Wow.
So I was in pretty rough shape, and the jail sent me to the hospital, and I had blood clots in both my lungs and my whole left leg. And the doctor said I was lucky to be alive, and there's a good chance I wouldn't have made it very much longer in the condition I was in. And I remember being so mad, like, because that's what my goal was. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Your goal is to
Die.
Okay.
I didn't want to. I was facing 10 years in prison for a drug. No violence involved, no guns involved, no nothing. And I couldn't see that being a good solution for somebody that's not violent or anything. Yeah. But then I got to jail after some days in the ICU, and it happened to be a Wednesday, and I went to this group. I didn't know who was running the group, and it was him.
The guy you just got mad at not too long ago.
We talked a little bit, gave him a hug, and I turned my back on God after I got confirmed, basically.
That's about what, 8th grade?
Yeah, when I was stopped being forced to be a part of church, I stopped believing because life just wasn't what I thought. Like, how is this what God would do? Whatever. But then that Sunday, I went to my first Bible study. Like, I've been locked up quite a few years of my life, in jail, prison, whatever. I've never been to a Bible study. I went to my first one. This guy's there again.
I was back
with a guy that I actually worked with back when I was like 18 years old. And then they all prayed over me, and like I just felt like the biggest weight lift off of me. And like that was the first time I decided to start fighting for my life. And I knew that, it doesn't get deeper than where I was at. Wow. That was rock bottom.
You painted a really good picture for everyone out there that's listening, what rock bottom could look like. And that was on the verge of death for you. Yep. Max, for you, do you remember what it was for you specific?
I had a really horrible problem with being able to withstand a lot of drugs. So I didn't have a lot of overdoses. I had one 2 weeks before. I actually got in a high-speed chase. And none of that stuff really even did it for me. I know I was on the same mission to early death because life just wasn't what I wanted it to be. That's because it wasn't doing anything to make it that way. But my bottom was the shame that I felt because I got raided 100 feet from my 1-year-old daughter, and I hadn't met her yet. So.
And you hadn't even met your daughter yet?
Well, I met her one time, and that wasn't very good. But
Sure.
yeah. So then that happened, and then that was it for me. The shame was enough, and there's a saying, when the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of change, you will surely change.
Okay.
And God brought me to that point, and then he showed me his way. And he showed me how much better it was than mine, and he continues to show me that today.
Gotcha.
So.
And you were rated, can you speak on what you were rated for? Was it drugs or?
What do you mean?
Well, you said that the time that you, when you hit rock bottom, you were rated.
Oh, yeah, we were rated for drugs.
Okay.
And we were getting robbed, and it was a silly situation.
Sure.
I was inside, passed out with some other people, and in Hidden Valley Trailer Park.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just a part of that lifestyle. You don't really give your kids the attention they need or anything else the attention it needs for a prosperous life when you're focused solely on drugs.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, now I want to get to the recovery process. And it sounds like yours started before yours, Brandon. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what year was it for you then when you're like, I got to change? Do you remember that year or what it was?
Yeah, it was 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay, so a decade
It was actually
ago.
2014. And then, so September 30th, 2014, I got in a high-speed chase. Then I went to Wabasha County Jail and found God. A lot of us find God in a jail cell.
Okay.
And he finds us when we're broken, so we're more receptive
Yeah.
to his help, and that's all right.
Yeah.
So that's how I found him. And so then I did jail time. Then I went to a treatment center where it's a buprenorphine friendly and methadone friendly treatment center. And I was an IV user addict. And that's kind of the next stage of a lot of people's addiction is to get into that medical, I don't know how to state it very nicely, but it's a way to wean yourself off street drugs and then hopefully wean yourself off doctor-prescribed drugs.
Oh, gotcha. You said something, a couple of terms there I didn't understand, and I'm not sure if I heard them right.
Methadone and buprenorphine are two different chemicals that doctors prescribe to drug addicts to help them.
Oh, okay.
Per se.
Sure. So
So-
you get off, they're basically giving you, it's almost like nicotine gum where you just kind of little by little get off of it, except for it's doctor prescribed.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's not as easy to get off as you would hope.
Okay.
So there are some different avenues now. I've been away from the scene for 11 years now. So, yeah, treatment. And then when I was in treatment, I went to a halfway house in Rochester, and I was planned to go to drug court in Winona. Got really comfortable in Rochester. It's a wonderful recovery city. And my boss was there, my job was there, and drug court was here. And they were like, no, you have to be a resident in Winona County to participate in a drug court program. And gosh, coming back here was the scariest I've ever been.
I can imagine because you're coming back to your roots of where all of it probably happened.
And I will tell you, I walked down 5th Street, April 14th, 2015, and I had never had so many of my old people want to get me high. Like they were just pulling over, like, you're back, come with us.
Oh, no.
We got you. And I'm like, no. I hid out at my probation officer's office till 5. Then I went shopping. Wasn't good. 29 years old, can't shop for anything like a grown-up. And I went to the wrong meeting house for NA that night. Ended up at the jail begging them to let me in. And they said, Max, just go home. I ran to the apartment drug court set me up in and locked my door. I woke up the next day clean. And that was one of the hugest milestones ever. I did everything in my power not to do drugs on that day.
That takes some strong mental.
I'd never made it 24 hours out of placement before.
Wow.
Not once till that day.
And people are seeing you walk down the street like, come on with us. Let's go.
Let's go get high, Max.
That takes a lot of mental strength to say no to that. I mean, how easy would it be just to fall back into the old ways?
I was in a suit coat with dress shoes on, trying to be all clean and professional. And I went to Bill Moe's office, and I'm like, dude, you guys brought me back to a trap. I cannot do this. And Bill was like, you can't do what? You can't remove yourself from a sticky situation and get somewhere safe? because you're in my office right now. It doesn't feel nice. I don't feel good being back here.
Yeah.
It was very scary.
Sure.
But, yeah, here we are today.
And then for you, Brandon, when did the recovery process start for you?
Well, it would have been when the bounty hunters rushed in the apartment.
What year was that?
The March 10th, 2024.
So much more recently then.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll have 2 years this March coming up of
Okay.
sobriety. So I went to jail. And then, I was turned down for treatment court the first time I was in jail before I took off on the run. And then, they had every reason to turn me down again. And I just wouldn't take no because, I was like, I know that I'm ready for this. I had never felt like I was going to take this serious ever in jail. It was just, I'm here till I get out, and then it's back to doing what I wanted to do, dipping and dodging from my probation and faking drug tests and whatever I had to do to continue. But, like, I was at complete peace with being done with all of it, was stepping away from everything I knew to try to get the life that I should have had. And I wrote a paper and had to present it in front of the treatment court board. And I think they had me wait like 2 weeks before they gave me an answer, and then they accepted me. After at that point, I understood what true gratitude was, because I was scared if I would have made it the whole 10 years in prison without turning back into what I was. Went to treatment for a couple months. I was going to go to treatment for the long-term program of 13 months, the Teen Challenge. But, the coordinator for treatment court, she's like, what are you running from? That's all I was doing was running. It wasn't going to change 13 months later. I was still going to come back to the community that I've done all of my hurt in. So, I made a choice to come back and get started on it. Again, scariest. I was in a halfway house for 3 months, and pretty much that whole time, like, anytime I'd have to go to the store or anything, like, I was just hoping I didn't run into people. Like, I was quick in, out, everywhere I went. But then finally I realized, part of making that change and part of actually disassociating with everything I knew created the space I needed from all of that. When I don't acknowledge you in public, when I don't try to reach out and hang out with you, they're not going to try. Because most of my relationships are built on drugs, alcohol, and not having much of a care in the world.
Sure.
You got to be useful to those type of people too, or they're
absolutely
not going to keep you around.
Yep.
What kind of useful would you consider?
You got to be providing drugs or some type of
which is what all of my relationships with people in this town seem to be. Was I always had cocaine, and I always did it with everyone around me. So came back here, and I never looked back. I grasped that this is what my life was going to be, and I decided to create a life that I could do without thinking about using. Nothing against 12-step meetings, but they weren't for me. They kept me in a loop, and I didn't want to be in that.
Sure.
I didn't want to call myself an addict, because I was just a very, very hurt human being who happened to use drugs amongst other things, women, money, gambling, alcohol, whatever, to cope. So, I gave my life to God and started doing what I needed to do by being alone with Him only, and that's the biggest difference, because I've always chased validation. I've always wanted people to be around me, and
sure.
Now that's where that relationship with myself came in.
Okay.
I can sit with myself and I'm not lonely ever.
Awesome. So is it fair to say that when you're going through treatment, you have to want to get better rather than just go through it? Because I always see a lot of people that are like, oh, I relapsed, I'm back in. And I always told students, I said, because I would talk about drugs and alcohol, and obviously you can get into the addiction portion, but if you go to these things and you don't want to change yourself, you'll never change. You're just going through the motions at that point.
That's the key, though. You have to want to change yourself, like for yourself.
Sure.
Like you can't be, I want to change so my kids have a better dad, because that's not going to hold up.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's just not. There's thousands of cases where that doesn't hold up. Unless you're doing it for yourself and wanting it for yourself, it doesn't last, in my experience, which is not too long, but not too short.
Okay.
But it just doesn't last. The same thing without, like, Narcotics Anonymous will let a door handle be your higher power if that's what you choose. You can take a hammer and smash that door handle. That doesn't work for me. You can't take a hammer and smash my God.
Nice. I like that. Well, and you say the same thing. You say you got to want to better yourself. But if you do better yourself, you're going to be a better person for your family, for your kids.
It's a ripple effect.
Yep. That's awesome. Now, I want to go on to the treatment court, because you guys talked about treatment court, and I don't know much about it. So if you guys want to just kind of talk briefly on what that is and what the experience is like for those who have gone through it. I don't know who wants to start first.
I'm going to shoot. I started when it was called drug court.
Okay.
And it was very strict. But like, what can you ask for? Like, you want a prison cell, or you want to do a program that's going to help mold you into a better person in the community that you owe replication? Is that the word, replications?
Sure, possibly.
You, as addicts and all the crime and stuff we do, we owe this community.
You pull the mic a little closer.
We owe Winona for our negative behaviors past,
Gotcha.
And coming back here and being productive members of society, and that's how we pay it back. Doing your podcast is a form of paying it forward.
Sure.
Volunteering at the jail, volunteering at the Humane Society, but like doing all these good things. That's how we keep her together.
Gotcha.
Yep. As far as the program, a lot of it is just based on, accountability, honesty, dealing with the root causes, dealing with mental health, and actually being honest throughout the whole thing. Because you could fake things, anybody could pretend for X amount of time, just to get through the program if they wanted to. But you definitely see the difference. For me, it was a lot of things that I thought I didn't really need to do or shouldn't have to do, because it wasn't, it didn't match where I was at in my life. Because people come in there at all different stages of life, all different. Some people have never had a normal job before. That's all they've known was the streets. For me, I've put together a lot of good years throughout my life. So this wasn't my first time living a normal, non-drug using life. But yeah, it's, if you use the team that they provide and are honest with them and do what is asked of you, that creates a great foundation. It gives you the time that you need. It gives you options. It gets you in the routine of seeing a mental health person, gets you in the routine of going to meetings. They give you options of using church as a meeting, which, I immediately did, because that's where I find a lot of my peace,
Yep.
Just being intentional and going there by myself and not talking with a bunch of people. I just want to sit there and listen and, be in that moment. So you're in it for a minimum of 13 months plus aftercare of a year. Everybody kind of has their own pace. And then there's 4 stages that you go through. You start off with like a 9 p.m. curfew, I think, is the first curfew for the first 3 months. A lot of drug testing, community work service, classes, go to court every 2 weeks.
It was every week when I started.
Yeah.
Every week. But it's just so humbling. Like, you're given an opportunity, and people who are serious, they take it and they invest, and all these different things that they have in place, the team set up for you, you know, the different meetings, the different requirements, the different classes. Like, it's all very humbling because you're so used to doing whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. Not when you have to call and be at a drug test and you don't have a license and you got to take a city bus, so you got to plan that, and then you got to get to your job, and then, you know. So growing up in your 30s doing a treatment court program is...
very humbling.
It's very humbling.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And then what's the next step then? I think you said there's 4 steps.
Yeah, well,
4 phases.
Yeah.
4 phases, I'm sorry.
And then, so, basically the first 3 phases they're all pretty similar. You know, just get a little bit later curfew, whatever. But then phase 4, you don't have the curfew anymore. And you know, the biggest thing is you do your work service that you normally have to do at each phase. And on top of that, you have to do a community project. For me, I did a book drive where I ended up with like 1,500 books that I collected and donated to jails, some daycares. I filled up some the little book boxes around town. Donated a bunch to Restored Blessings. You know, just because reading was always an escape for me, and it made me dream of a better life while I was incarcerated. And you know, still to this day, I read quite a bit. I really enjoy it. It's still a release for me. So I just wanted to do that and hope that, you know, it helps somebody else get to that spot that I got to also.
Sure. And then what's the next phase after that?
Graduation, which I just did.
Okay.
What a wonderful day.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not to like blow your head up, but when you graduate treatment court, like you feel wonderful. I mean, I've never felt so good because the hard work pays off. Like, that's one of those instances, those milestones where you're like, yes, I graduated.
And that's 13 months later, right?
It could be 2
Yeah,
years.
it could be 3 years.
So 13 is like the minimum?
13 is an absolute bare minimum.
Okay.
And that's if everything lands on perfect timing
Gotcha.
and everything else.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's a year. It's a year of aftercare. First 3 months, still doing the call-ins for drug screening. After that is just probation meetings, and then every month going to can't remember what they call it, but a meeting, and then every 3 months going to a restorative justice circle where you get your supports all to come in and talk about what you've accomplished, what your next goals are moving forward. And you do that to get through all that, and then just wait till you're done with your probation. And you know, it seems like kind of a pain to keep doing all the things after you're done graduating, but like, you know, you see people still, you know, as soon as they're done with that, like, some people need that accountability because they haven't finished the work to get to a place in their life where they just do things. Like, for me, I don't think about what I have to do. I just do it. I don't think about, like, I'm not tempted to go do anything because it never crosses my mind anymore, because I have routine, I have structure. I kept myself accountable. Everything I've done throughout treatment court, I could have done in front of the treatment court team, and it would have been okay. You know, so I think that's accountability is huge, and people need it.
Yep. I still check in with Bill Moe.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're, what, like 11 years?
I just do it because he's a good friend. And,
Sure.
And I value a lot about him.
Yeah.
And Karen, she's a stellar human being.
Yep, I know her too.
Absolutely.
Karen, the coordinator, I still check in with her. I make myself available to mentor any new participants, or, you know, speak if they need, or anything that drug court would ask me. I'm eternally in debt to them because they truly gave me an opportunity to find God and find myself and be a part of this community.
Do you go speak other places then?
I've spoke at the rec, I've spoke at the college and some high schools. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
I recently just spoke to a WSU class. It was just a couple months ago, I think now.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
it intimidating at all?
That was the first time I've done my story. And, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to take notes first. And I was like, you know what, I've lived this. Like, I just left it all
Yeah.
and just started talking. But yeah, it was good. It was one of the coolest experiences I've had since getting sober.
Did you have any like kids that are like, whoa?
Yeah, two of the students actually showed up to my graduation and spoke.
Really?
Yeah, that's really cool to have that ripple effect there too. That I touched them, and when a lot of people see addiction and never see the people that they love get to this level, get to the recovery. A lot of people are lost forever. A lot of people lose their lives. A lot of people end up in prison for their whole life, in and out. To see the success story, and I had him to look at. Even when I was still using, like, I was proud that he was sober because we were, like you said before, we were two different junkies. I was not the way that he was, and he wasn't the way that I was.
I was the bad one.
Yeah.
I was the bad one with the needle.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I tried to put on a good face and still be a part of the everyday community while I was doing whatever else I wanted to do.
Sure.
But yeah, it's cool to have that outreach there, and to see them two show up. That was a huge part of my graduation too that I'll never forget.
That's really cool. Do you remember yours?
I just like to hopefully be a part of, maybe they'll see the addict in a different light and more on a human side than just a junkie.
Sure.
When they're getting arrested, when they're incarcerated, maybe just give them a little hope that this person might be that person I met last week speaking at that event. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If I treat them a certain way, maybe or not treat them a certain way, maybe they'll just have a better chance at finding themselves.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I hope to be a part of that.
Well, now that brings us to the recovery and the growth as a person, because you talked about the success of the treatment court, and now it's going back into society. And obviously, I'm going to assume what comes with that is a negative outlook on you guys as people. You're going to come back into society and people are going to go, oh, I know that person. I know the true aspect of that person when that was your old self. So how was it like coming back into society as a new person, basically?
Man, I took every opportunity to be a positive figure in public to show that I wasn't that old Max and that I was a new creation.
Sure.
So I didn't stay stuck there. I just got a part of the solution and stayed in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think mine too is like a big part of my identity was selling drugs, and like I didn't care where I was. I didn't respect other businesses. Like I would do what I wanted where I wanted. I understand that there's the stigma of, is he, I was 36 years old. Like it took me all these times of getting in trouble, I don't blame them for thinking that I might not change.
Sure.
But it's been hard for me. There's some factories in this town that have been known to hire people with records and have been very, very forward with giving people chances. And, there's one company that I've applied at so many times for third, second shift, whatever. And even last week, after I've been employed since I got back, or 3 months after I got back, I'm still getting denied. It's just like, it's crazy because obviously, there's something to it, and it has to do with me and not just the record. And that is the unfortunate part. That's where all the fighting and stuff that didn't help. But yeah, it's hard. And then trying to rent, get a landlord to give you a decent place to live,
Which matters.
Yeah.
I will say it really, truly matters having a nice
Yep.
place to call home rather than your
The places that you
dive
used to live
apartment.
anyways.
Right. You used
Yeah.
to do drugs there, and now you're trying to be clean there. It's like,
No.
I remember Bill Baker gave me my first apartment behind Suds and Duds over in Goodview.
Yep, my dad and him used to own those together.
Yeah, they own those
Yep.
together, and he let me in there, and I was fresh, and the walls were white, the windows were open, it was nice, clean carpet, no stains. I was elated that I could bring my daughter to a nice apartment, and it just made me ride that pink cloud that was necessary for longer.
So it gave you a nice.
It was an oomph.
It was like a fresh start, basically.
Yeah, it was really good.
And that's so housing is tough to find.
Yeah.
Jobs are tough to find as well
Yeah.
because people are obviously looking at your record and some of that.
And the mugshot page on Facebook doesn't help.
That does not help. No.
No, it doesn't.
And nowadays, you don't even have to do a background check before you give somebody an interview. You just type their name in Google or type their name on Facebook and see what pops up.
Yep.
And unfortunately, like I was on the front page of the paper not all that long ago. I was on the jail roster not all that long ago. So it's permanently out there, and it's very fresh in people's minds because they see it over and over and over and over and over again, which is something that's more difficult than it was before. I never had a problem getting a job before, years back, but obviously things change, and
Sure.
Everything you do is out there.
Yeah.
So for someone that has been in recovery, what can you explain the importance of second chances then? I assume you guys have had probably second, third possible chances as well. Can you speak to the importance of that?
I mean, yeah, because what if the judge was like, no, Max, go to prison? I probably would have just became a statistic to the penal system and joined a prison gang and stayed there with my homies for, and my daughters would have missed out on what I hope to be as a good dad.
Sure.
So.
Well, that's a good thing. Now, the last thing I want to go down as we're starting to wind down here, you guys have talked about your faith quite a bit throughout this conversation, and it sounds like it's a huge part of what your recovery system was for both of you. I guess it kind of came at the lowest part after the lowest part of your life. It sounds like that's when you found God, and that's the big. And we're talking about the Christian God. We're not talking about any other. So for those, and you actually spoke on whatever your higher power is, but for you guys, it's God.
Yeah.
And you actually made a really good statement earlier about my God can't be broken with a hammer or anything of that nature. So that's really cool. What about your faith was important? What did you find when you were first coming as a recovery? What stuck with you? I know you gave us your psalm, but was there other things as well?
Grace for me.
Grace, okay.
I didn't think I deserved it. There's a lot of days I still have trouble accepting the grace that I get. But yeah, that's been a huge thing for me.
The fact that after everything I had done and all the times I had let God down intentionally, because I'd known God my whole life.
Yep.
My grandma raised me in Central Lutheran Church. I knew who God was, and I used that. I'm like, if God takes me home, he takes me home. Otherwise, I'm going to party until I drop.
Sure.
So I use that in a sick light. But so I've always known God, and I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
So the fact that God would leave the 99 to get the one, I'm the one. I left him, and he still came and found me, and that gave me a sense of self-worth that I lacked. And we all have a heart issue, and in my experience, the only one that can fix that is God.
Sure.
So,
what part of grace for you, Brandon? I like that you brought that up because I used to teach at a Christian school, and there's the law portion, and then there's the faith portion, which is the grace. What about the grace portion really caught your eye? Was there a specific verse or anything, or a specific teaching?
For me, it goes back to what I was looking for while I was out there actively sinning on a every second basis was the same thing that I found in God without all of the consequences of it. I wanted family, I wanted love, I wanted guidance, I wanted to be okay and welcomed. And that's what I found. What I looked for in drugs and alcohol, I have found in God.
Okay.
It's just a matter of getting there. Your mental and spiritual health is definitely the driving factors of you staying in addiction.
Awesome.
And also staying out. I'll say that because there's a triangle. Like if you take care of your mental, physical, and spiritual health, your likelihood of success and recovery from addiction is much greater than if you're just reading self-help books, going to NA meetings or AA meetings or whatever. If you're not focusing on what I deem the real solution, which is a working relationship with God, good luck.
Okay. And so when it comes to addiction, what are some things that you wish more people understood about the problem or the issue at hand?
I think like you always see people comment it was their choice to pick up the drugs. But then it goes back to it's not the drugs. It's everything else. It's drugs are just a Band-Aid for how you were feeling. If like I said before, if it wasn't drugs for me, it would have been something else that I would have done to an extreme to get to a place where I felt like I was happy, even though I obviously, looking back on it, I never was happy.
Sure.
But it's not just drugs. Doing drugs just happens to be a very readily available solution for people when they're going through all these issues.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you wish that people understood more about the addiction portion when it comes to people, I guess?
That it's not just drug addicts. It's not just the drugs. It's not just the alcohol. People cope in a lot of different ways. Alcohol and drugs happen to be readily available and very common, and they also lead to a lot more chaos than some of the other coping things. But if every single person didn't choose to be depressed, didn't choose to not know how to function, not know how to communicate, not know how to accept love, give love, like I had to learn these things as an adult. And I'm still learning every day the correct ways to live. And I lived a long time emotionally numb, and drugs and alcohol just happened to be what I got in trouble for. But
Gotcha.
It goes deeper than that. It's all it is a mental health issue, a spiritual health issue, an emotional issue that turns into that.
Gotcha. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's what he says about it's not the drugs, it's a person.
Okay.
It's a person who's using the wrong system to deal with their problems. And if you can look at that, that person's going to receive you and what you have to say more than if you just approach them like you're a junkie.
Sure.
With that stamp, that big red stamp of junkie.
So what's something that you would tell someone who's struggling right now with addiction? What's something you would tell them right now from your personal experience of something that might help them get through? Is there anything that comes to mind that it's just like, this would have helped me had I known that?
That's a hard cookie to crumble there because until they're ready, nothing you say is actually going to do shit.
Okay.
And I would say, because like there's a lot of times that people are ready, like that you're completely broken. But if you don't do every single thing necessary to remove yourself from that life, eventually you're going to fall back into it. You're going to make an exception one time to hang out with somebody that still uses, and you may not use, or you're gonna go hang out at the bar for a little bit and think that it's going to be okay. Eventually you keep doing those same patterns. The next step is the other pattern of using again.
Yep.
It's like when you're ready, if you want to stop the relapses and all of that, make a commitment to all of it. It may be lonely at times for some people, but like sit with yourself for a minute. Sit with yourself through that feeling. Once you get through that, it may only take a few seconds or it may take 5-10 minutes, whatever. But like play it forward of everything that could happen if you use. None of that's worth just being lonely. It's
right.
The chaos that comes from a relapse. It doesn't take long to think about that to not, for me personally.
Absolutely.
But it's also all the fail stops that I have in place in my life. I created a life that is safe, and I'm not willing to jeopardize that for any person or anything.
That's good advice, I think, for sure. But I also agree with you, Max, that the person has to want to first. So you could tell them a whole bunch of things, but if their mindset's not there, and then taking yourself out of those old habits starts getting into new, healthier habits as well. So just as a final thing here, is there any people that you want to kind of maybe shout out or that you remember that really helped you through this whole process? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a plethora of people that probably come across your mind. You've spoken on some of them already. Is there any ones that you want to just like say thank you to that really helped out?
I will thank my dad. He passed away June 10th, but in his absence, I get to be there for my kids because I know the importance of that absence.
Sure.
And, of course, my good friend Joe McConkey, Coach Joe, and the drug court of Winona County.
Okay.
And all the team.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, definitely the drug court team. Approaching that whole program as we're on the same team. For me, my whole life was always me versus them. But like I tried to just say, all right, these people are here for me. Build a relationship with them. Don't just go through the steps, and that's what I've done. I've known Bill. He's been off and on a probation officer for me for 22 years.
Sure.
I started young with him, and I'm going to finish now, and that's going to be done. But yeah, it was, they definitely care. It's anybody who gets to work with them is very, very lucky. It's a great program. My sponsor, Rick, he's been there, drop of a dime, anything I've ever needed to talk, whatever. He's one of the most selfless people in this community when it comes to recovery, and he's trying to do things with the foxhole and always there helping. He brings meetings into the jail. He's a huge part of the recovery community here. Max, I definitely, looked up to him as he went through his journey. And even when I was younger, when we were going through our other journey, I always looked up to him. But like, I knew the darkness that he was at. And to see him do it the way that he's done it gave me a playbook, and it works. Stop making excuses and just do what you need to do, and this works.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like it's great to have a partner to go through this with rather than just yourself. You can see the recovery process that Max made ahead of time, and you go, oh, hey, it works. I don't want to be a statistic, as you said. You could have just gone back to prison and just been another stat, like you were saying, Max, and that's fantastic that didn't ever happen, and that the drug courts do work. Yep. Sometimes people say, it's just, a waste of money or whatever it could be, but you guys are two living proofs that it's not.
No. And there's many more. There's many more.
Yep.
I have tons of brothers from drug court that are still clean and prospering and family men and over a decade of recovery because the treatment court team said yes.
Awesome.
So.
Was there any final thoughts you guys have that we didn't cover at all today?
God is real.
God is real.
God is good. With God, you're never alone.
Yeah. That's one of the most important things.
Yep.
Well, that's very good. I know not everyone's probably of faith out there, so maybe your story can help someone actually come to God too. You never know who's listening out there as well.
That's the last commandment of Jesus.
What's
Go
that?
Go out and tell them all.
Go out and tell them all. Make disciples of all nations?
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on in. I want to thank our special guests in the background for bringing the new year. We got James Bond back there, George Burns, Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, and Austin.
And the goat back there. I see the goat, Austin.
Yep. And I just want to give you guys a cheers and a thank you. I mean, we're cheers in our waters and bangs and liquid death. And thank you guys for coming in and sharing your story. And for those who are listening or watching, please like, share, subscribe, 5-star, tag someone, share this with someone who maybe needs some help in their life. It's a good way to kick off the new year because you never know. This is the time to make your New Year's resolutions. Yeah. So thank you guys one more time, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Thanks.